Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, friends. Welcome back. And if this is your first episode, welcome to the Grimdark Diaries. We're bringing you some hot true crime or some creepy tales. I have had a very stressful week and an even more stressful day, but right now I am drinking one of my favorite beers and I'm on a video chat with my homegirl Megan. So the world is better now. How are you, Megan?
I'm doing very well. It has been so nice outside. I'm feeling the energy of the sun and everybody's feeling pretty happy and positive these days. We have a new phase opening up soon and people are going to get to go outside and see their friends.
Yeah, I've been going hiking. It's great.
Have you? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I have been. It's been wonderful. The sun's been great. I got like a tan going.
Yeah, so do I. I actually got burned the other day and then I had a great nap that evening because it kind of took me out, but it turned into a very nice tan. I'm very happy with it.
Ooh, yeah, my freckles are just full force right
Popping
now.
out, eh?
Yeah, they are. They're wild. I'm really glad that freckles are like a desired thing now because when I was a kid, they were not at all.
No, they probably were compared with Anne of Green Gables quite a bit.
No, have you ever heard the thing about how kids get freckles? You don't have freckles, so people probably never said this to you. When I was a kid, people told me that I had freckles because a cow pooped through a screen door on my face.
What?
You've never heard that?
Never, ever heard that before.
Yeah, it didn't help that I lived on a farm where there were cows.
Right.
So that definitely did not help my very freckly face.
Oh my God, I've never heard that before in my life.
Yeah,
No.
kids are assholes.
Seriously though. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
But it's funny now because I see people on my social media that are getting freckle tattoos, like people that don't have freckles. So they're getting tattoos done of freckles to make it look like they have freckles because people draw it on with makeup all the time.
Okay.
And then the next step now is people are literally getting tattooed freckles.
Wow, I didn't know that. I do not want freckles on my face.
Well, thanks, Megan.
Not saying anything bad about freckles, but I don't
I'll just take my poop face elsewhere.
I just don't think my face would look good with freckles on it. I guess I could put some on with makeup and see.
Yeah, we'll find a cosplay for you with somebody that has freckles.
I could do Anna Green Gables.
You could.
I don't.
Everyone hold that to Megan. I have a Halloween party every year and everyone has to dress in costumes that they've never worn before. This is a true story.
True.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Because we're all cosplayers, so it's no fun if you wear a costume I've already seen.
Exactly.
So every year, my Halloween party, everyone must wear a costume that no one has ever seen them in. So.
And it's actually great when they come in like closet cosplays that are just like random things thrown together that are like actually perfect.
Yeah, they are. People come up with the greatest stuff.
Yeah.
So Megan is going to be Anne of Green Gables.
Apparently.
Everyone wait for that. We'll see pictures in October.
Yeah.
Make sure you hold her to that.
We'll know who listens to the podcast when I show up at the Halloween party in Anne of Green Gables. Oh, you did it. Nice.
Yeah. I'm going to be so disappointed in future you if you don't.
Okay. I'm going to mark that on my calendar 2 weeks before Halloween to make sure that I do that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a great segue, not at all, actually, into our story.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you all remember, I rolled last week for the next category, and that is no pain, no gain. Frank Griga was born in Budapest, Hungary on April 6, 1962. And around 1985, he would immigrate to the United States. And he immediately found a minimum wage job in New York City at a service station. He would end up changing oil, washing cars. He had basically $10 in his pocket when he moved to America. So he started off very, very low. It wouldn't even be 10 years later, though, around 1995, when Frank, who was 33 years old at the time, would move into an upscale Miami, Florida area of Golden Beach house.
I want to live in Miami.
Right? I feel like that would be a really nice area, too.
I love Florida. Every time I've been there, I've had a wonderful time.
Yeah, I have too, actually. I've heard a lot of not great things about Florida, especially all the stories about Florida man, whatever.
No, I agree.
But every time I've ever been there, it's been nice.
Yeah, every time I go, I'm on vacation. So I feel like that's a whole different vibe.
That's so true. Yeah. Tried living there for a while. Although there was one time that I went there when it was like, I was right before I went on my cruise, the very first cruise and only cruise I've ever taken. And they were talking on the news about the oil spill. You remember the BP oil spill that happened down there? It was right outside of where I was staying, so the water was becoming infected with oil, and I was like, uh-oh, not sure what's gonna happen. And then we went on the cruise, and apparently things were fine, and then we went home, so I didn't have to worry about it. But yeah, the poor people who live there obviously had to worry about it.
Did you see everything that's happening with the water near us?
I did hear. We had an emergency alert this morning about it. I didn't get it until
Nova Scotia.
It was like 8:30 this morning I got the alert, but I work with a girl who actually lives in the area of the lake that this happened in, and she got 3 alerts overnight. So one late in the middle of the night, and then one shortly after that, and then another one at around 8:30 when I got mine.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, a part of our province, the water that people drink, like it's a lake that's hooked up to people's houses, animals are dying that came in contact with it. And one girl, I think she only touched it because she went to take a sample of it or something, and she got very sick.
I read the article this morning, and what happened was it was 1:00 in the morning. One dog got in the water and immediately became in distress. So she went in to go rescue it. It was a golden retriever, I believe. She went in to go rescue it, and she immediately became in distress. And then there was like a puppy on the shore that was like running back and forth. It barely even touched the water. And then it became immediately distressed.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, maybe that's a trigger warning. Both of those dogs passed away, and she is in the hospital being treated for it.
That's crazy. I'm not going to lie. The alert didn't come to me until 2:30 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, that's when I got it. I was out for a run on my lunch break and I got it. And I was like, thank God I don't live there, because I drank a lot of water and I had a coffee today.
Right. Exactly. Well, and the girl that I work with, she was like, I was swimming in that lake last night. And I was like, uh-oh.
Oh my goodness.
So just kind of like stand by and watch to see if any symptoms show up. But I'm guessing it wasn't in like the same area. They're suspecting it might be an algae bloom.
I've heard
potentially like blue-green algae or something like that, which is...
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But in previous years, it's never been immediately, like the animals that become intact with it, they don't usually immediately go into the stress like that. Sorry, in contact, not... Yes, you know what I mean? In contact with the blue-green algae, they don't normally immediately become distressed. It's usually like a while later. And for humans, it's not usually... at all. Quick. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this got extremely derailed.
It did, yeah. Sorry.
So there's some bad water in our province right now.
That's right. It is hard not to talk about it. Yeah, we really hope everyone is okay and that it doesn't get any worse.
This episode.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, it will be a week from now.
Yeah, spoilers. We recorded a week in advance. We have to roll for these damn categories.
Exactly.
So
and then
we only have
the
1
stories.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we do good for 1 week.
Yeah. Okay, so continue.
Yes, okay.
To the upscale area in Miami.
Of Golden Beach. So the reason he became so successful was because he started up a phone sex line company, and it took off.
I'm sorry. I was taking a drink of my beer and I almost choked.
Oh my God, your face. Oh, it was so perfect. Yep.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so was it just him?
Well, he started up the company. So he started it by hiring people, and then I don't know. I'm assuming he got a loan. It doesn't go into details about, but I'm guessing the way it happened. Anyway, I think they said it was like a $5.6 million company after.
I'm sorry. What year is this?
This was in 1995.
Oh, okay. That's insane.
So, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be worth today, but apparently sex phone line companies do very well.
I'm looking to pay for a new house. Do you think that's still profitable?
Put on your sexy voice.
Whoa, we just learned what Megan's sexy voice is.
I used to have an old boss who used to tell me that I had a sexy phone voice and to record the automated phone system when people called into the office because they were like, you have a really nice, professional, sexy phone voice. And I'm like, okay.
Well, thank God you're doing a damn podcast here.
Yeah, I know.
Now we know half our listeners are just here for Megan's sexy voice.
I know that's not true because my normal voice isn't like that. It's my professional voice. When I bring out the professional voice, that's
your
when you can
customer
expect
service voice.
That's right. Yeah, that's when you can expect some sexy time.
Oh God!
Don't worry, Nikki. I won't bring it out on you. It's fine. So around the same time, he would fall in love with his new girlfriend. They had been together for 3 years. Well, I guess it wasn't a new girlfriend then. It was his girlfriend of 3 years. Her name was Christina Furton, and she was 23 years old and also an immigrant of Hungary.
Did she work for the phone sex line?
She didn't, but she met him when she worked at one of his strip clubs, which, sorry, I also forgot that he also owns strip clubs.
Wow. Jeez.
I feel like once you're in that line of
Wow.
work, it just kind of keeps coming.
Does it?
Not literally. Okay, stop. Yes. So she worked at one of his strip clubs called Solid Gold. A lot of gold themes in Miami, Florida, it seems. Those who knew them said that they were the perfect couple, that they, quote, fit together like a hand and a glove, end quote.
That's cute. I didn't know what you were going to say. You
You
were like a hand and I'm like, oh my God, what is going to be this object that goes with a hand?
It could have been anything at that point,
Yeah.
but that was the quote I took.
Okay.
Okay. So he was at the height of his game, that is, until May 1995. A state trooper in Miami found a yellow Lamborghini abandoned near the Everglades. So the Everglades in Florida, I'm not too familiar with them, but what I read about is it's basically like this giant river with trees area where it's basically littered with alligators, maybe also crocodiles as well.
Crocodiles were my favorite animal for most of my life.
Really? I didn't know that about you.
I had an absolute obsession with the crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah,
Yes.
when he had his show, I was utterly obsessed. And I covered my bedroom. And like, I wasn't a kid. Like, I was like a teenager. I covered my wall. I found this coloring book of like pictures of him with crocodiles. And I colored them all. Yeah, which is the worst coloring book ever because he just wears those beige khakis. And crocodiles are green. And all of the foliage is green. And then blue water. But I colored every damn one. And my mom bought it for me. And I hung up all my colorings as like an older teenager too. Like I was not a child.
I love this story so much.
Yeah, I was very obsessed with him.
God.
I never missed an episode.
That's amazing. I also was. I loved that show so much. I was devastated when he passed away.
Same.
Oh man, that was a hard time to hear when he passed away and how he passed away.
The first time I saw a crocodile was in Florida too, and I was so happy. I went to Disney World when I was 9 or 20 years old. I was 20. So one of the rides at Animal Kingdom is an African safari.
Yes.
And you go in like this super high up Jeep and you get the equivalent of an African safari and you see all these animals. And then we came up on this whole body of water with like 1 million crocodiles. Not really. There's maybe like 20 crocodiles.
Real crocodiles?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, you go on a full safari.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I have a funny story. We're going to get sidetracked for a minute.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those episodes. I had a rough week, so I'm just looking to talk.
Yes, please do.
That's how I release
We need to make
stress.
this longer than the bonus episode for Monday, so...
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, bonus episode would have came out.
That's right.
I'm sorry for its length, but I had a week. Okay, so this is my story. So this was the first time I was ever at Disney World, and greatest place in the entire world. I could talk about that for a million years.
Of
We're not
course.
even going to get me started on that,
No.
but I'm obsessed with Disney World.
Yeah.
So we went on this African safari, and it's amazing. You're in this super high up Jeep, and it's like an open-sided Jeep, and you go on the equivalent of an African safari.
Okay.
Like, you see animals. So I saw elephants and giraffes and cheetahs and antelope, and I saw a lion and hippos and crocodiles, like you name it, and I saw it.
That's amazing.
Then, oh my God, it's absolutely amazing. And
So
they basically
cool.
drive around and like show you all this stuff, and it's huge. It's this big open area. Like it's not a ride, you're in a huge like habitat, like a wildlife habitat, and you feel like you're in Africa. Like that's their whole thing, is they try and absolutely replicate it, and it's amazing. So then we're driving and I'm like, whoa, there's like, we see jaguars, and I was like, oh my goodness. And they're like eyeing the Jeep, and it's an open-sided Jeep. And I was just like, they were on the side that I was on, and the way they were just standing and staring us down, I was like,
God.
this is like a slightly terrifying, because I have slight animal fear.
Right.
So I was just like a little bit, I know it's Disney World, so nothing bad could ever happen, but I was kind of like, oh man, that he is really eyeing us. And they're like the fastest animal. So I was like, he could like probably run and jump. And I was like, our little tour guide driving the Jeep, he's like has a microphone, he's talking, and I'm getting a little nervous. And then I look over to him driving, and the whole time he had his arm out the window, or like the open side of the Jeep. Until then I realized it's not that his arm was out the window, it's that he was missing his arm. So from like just under his like his mid bicep, like kind of just above his elbow down, was missing.
What?
And that's what he was holding, like the top part of his arm is the only part he had, and that was out the side of the Jeep. And I was like, oh my God, did that happen here? So then I got a little bit nervous.
I would have asked him. I'm so sorry.
No, I don't want to ask somebody that. I'm sorry, sir. Did your half of your arm go missing at Disney World? No, he was really nice too. But I definitely had a moment of like, oh my God.
Well, seriously, especially after the way the panther? Did you say? What was it?
Jaguar.
Oh, the jaguar. Oh God, those things are so.
And he was
so
like lurking,
sleepy.
and he was kind of going back and forth and like watching us as we were driving by.
That is so creepy, but would be so cool though.
Yeah.
I would love
And
that.
then wait, I have a short follow-up.
Okay.
So then also at Animal Kingdom, you can go on a walking African safari. So this one you walk through, and they'll have either glass kind of blocking you from where the animals live, or there'll be like a giant cavern almost.
Okay.
So there was huge gorillas. Like they were huge, and they were not that far away, but it was like a huge cavernous drop. So they would have to jump it and make it. But I was a little nervous about that too. They were like pacing back and forth watching us, and I was like, oh God. But then we go to one part where there's hippos, and you're kind of like inside, and there's glass like that on one side of a lake.
Okay.
So you can see them swimming in the water because you're lower than the lake, so you can see into the lake. And it was very cool. And we were like, oh my God. Oh, it was so cool. And there's this huge hippo, and we're like, it's swimming towards us.
Oh
this
no.
is amazing. I was there with the dance team. So we're standing there, and this hippo is underwater swimming straight for us. And we're like, this is amazing. And he comes right up to the glass where our faces are. And then he does a 180. So his asshole is completely facing us, and then he just rips like a huge like diarrhea at the glass, and it just underwater splatters directly in front of us. And then he swims away.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, he had a tell me how you really feel about all these people watching you moment.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that's so funny. I love it.
I have like 1,000 stories from Disney World because I went there 3 times in like a 6-year span, just because of the dance team I was on.
Yeah.
So someday we'll hear more stories, but
love
boy,
it.
do I have stories.
I
got
can't wait.
very drunk at Disney World on an open bar that they provided with me, and it was great.
I bet there's a lot of stories out of that just that one.
Yeah, a cast member had to lead me through Disney World drunk.
Which cast member?
I don't know, like just a worker, because there was like a VIP
Cinderella
party
walking you down.
No, God, I wish.
You out.
No, but Mickey and Minnie came in their formal wear because it was like a VIP party for the dance
Nice.
the World Dance Competition.
Yeah.
But then they take us to this special like outcropping in the middle of the water to watch the fireworks that no ordinary people can go to.
Right.
But then they let me get at an open bar for like 4 hours before that. And then I was like,
God.
you want me to walk through this park? Are you crazy? So then they held me there. And then there was an open bar there too. It was great.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and they were serving champagne. It was fabulous.
Gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we need to hear more of Nikki's Florida Disney World stories, obviously.
Yeah, I got a lot. I'll hitch up with them.
We need to think of
sometime.
some prompts. So it's a prompt,
That's the thing,
and
I
then
work
all of
on
a sudden,
prompts.
Nikki's brain just opens wide
It's
open,
true.
and then all the things come out of it. So we just
I've lived a lot of life in my 33 years.
That's right. Okay, so back to the story.
Yes, strip club.
Yes,
Crocodiles. Everglades.
State trooper found a yellow Lamborghini abandoned near the Everglades. So this would turn out to be Frank's Lamborghini. When the state trooper checked out the plates, he discovered that the young couple had been reported missing 3 days prior to this by their neighbor, who is Judy Bartuz, who found the house to be empty and the dog was there all alone. Poor
No,
puppy.
the puppers.
Yeah. So the housekeeper, who is unnamed, she knew that the couple had planned to go on a trip to the Bahamas, but they weren't scheduled to leave for another couple of days. To prove this to be true, the plane tickets were found inside the house, so they hadn't left yet.
Oh.
At that time, the housekeeper knew that something was wrong, so she ran over to the neighbor Judy's house, and once Judy confirmed that things didn't seem quite right, she contacted the authorities to report Frank and Christina missing. Judy said that she had seen the young couple the night before when she was out walking her dog. She said Frank and Christina were on their way out to dinner with 2 unidentified men.
And did they go in the car, did she see?
She saw they got in the vehicle with them and drove away, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So initially, police weren't really that concerned about the couple because couples kind of tend to go away sometimes, and maybe they decided
especially
to
if you're
get
rich.
away. Exactly, they were rich, so it's kind of like, yeah, they weren't really concerned too much. However, after the Lamborghini was located abandoned, they kind of upped their game a little bit to try to figure out what might have happened to the couple, because now it appeared that there might be foul play at work. During the investigation process, there were no apparent leads with any of the family or friends that were interviewed. They even interviewed Frank's ex-girlfriend, Beatrice, who was another stripper at Solid Gold. But she knew nothing and was adamant that there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I don't know what word I just said.
Forgot a Y there.
I know. Ordinary.
Added to the Grimtionary.
That's right. Ordinaire. I didn't say it with the right
Ordinaire.
inflection. That's right.
Yes.
Even searching their home and vehicles gave the police nothing. The only lead that they had was Judy's description of the 2 men that they were last seen with the night before they disappeared.
So they didn't find anything in the car? Like there was no blood or...
There was in the car. They didn't find anything that would give him any leads. Like it was just their own DNA, and it was there was nothing evident.
Suspicious.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say evidence-wise, but yeah, that too. Judy described him as a dark-skinned, chiseled Adonis with long black hair. He was a very, very good-looking man, allegedly.
Yeah, we don't know Judy's taste.
Right.
Maybe her taste isn't my taste.
Right? Yes, exactly.
Although that description sounds nice.
I can tell you that it's not my taste, knowing what he looks like. When Judy said this, the homicide captain, Al Harper, piped up as he was extremely familiar to a story that his acquaintance, who was a private investigator named Ed Dubois, or Boyce.
Dubois?
Dubois? Oh, it could be Dubois. Yeah, that's probably more likely the case. How you pronounce that. Ed Dubois. Yeah, that's totally it. Okay. So he was a private investigator and he was looking into this case from 1994. He said that a man named Mark Schiller, who was a wealthy businessman in Florida, was claiming that for a whole month he had been kidnapped, blindfolded, and tortured by assailants who referred to themselves as the Sun Jim Gang. And they also kept him shackled.
For a month?
For a whole month. They had deprived him of any food. They beat him and even burned him with their cigarettes. On top of all of this, they forced him to sign documents that included all of his assets to give the assailants the rights.
Wow.
Yeah, a month. I can't even imagine that for a month.
No.
So once they were done with Mark, they decided to try to stage an accident to kill him. They first gave Mark copious amounts of alcohol for about 5 days straight. On the last day, they had given him a concoction of liquor, tequila, vodka, and some sleeping pills. Eventually, Mark passed out. The Sun Jim Gang then put him in his Toyota 4Runner SUV. A man named Adrian Doorbal got into the driver's seat and drove it into a light pole. Once the car was a wreck, They placed Mark in the front seat and doused the vehicle with gasoline and started a fire in the car. The gang backed away only about a block so that they could watch the car go up in flames. But Mark wasn't buckled in the front seat, so when the fire woke him up from his stupor, he stumbled out of the vehicle towards the road. The Sun Gym gang was shocked to see him alive, so they then tried to run him over with their vehicle. Mark was able to get out of the way, so they missed him, but then they backed up and hit him this time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. At this point, they figured they had killed him, so they drove away from the scene. For Mark, the details were a little bit fuzzy, but he was actually able to escape this insane plot to kill him. The next thing that Mark remembers is waking up in a hospital bed. It would be days before he would wake up from a coma and realize the horror of the ordeal he had just been put through. He had been burned, bruised, and had a broken pelvis, and he tried to tell the doctors his story to anyone, actually, who would listen. Everyone said that he was just in a bad car accident because of how drunk he was. No one believed his story.
That's brutal.
I can't even imagine. Like, you're given copious amounts of alcohol because of this and then put in a car accident and caught the car on fire, and you had nothing to do with it, and no one believes you because that's exactly what it looks like, is that you got drunk, drove your car into a pole. So he decided to go to a private investigator. The reason why he didn't go to the police is because he was afraid, due to the fact that the assailants told him that they were going to expose his shady business to them if he turned them in, even knowing full well they were going to try to kill him at the end. And two, because he had a shady business going on, which I'll talk about later.
I love some shady business.
Mm-hmm. Ed Dubois had more than 50 years of experience as a private investigator. He investigated what had happened to Mark Schiller and tried to get to the bottom of the kidnapping. First, he looked into the documents that would give away all of Mark's assets. He noticed that they had been notarized by a CPA named John Meese. This man was also the owner of Sun Gym. So Ed went to Sun Gym to have a little chat with John about how these papers came to be signed. John was adamant that it was a lucrative business deal with Mark. When Ed was left alone for a moment to wait for John in a conference room, he noticed that there was a trash bin in the room that was bursting because it was so full of paperwork. So Ed stole the paper, as one does as a private investigator. He stole the papers so he could review them later on, which he was super happy he did because they turned out to be incriminating evidence against John Meese, as well as a network of 11 men that were all involved in the kidnapping plot against Mark Schiller.
Okay, I got a grimdark hot tip. If you have incriminating papers, put it through a shredder.
Right?
Don't put it in your waste paper basket. Grimdark Murder Class 101, incriminating evidence in the shredder.
Exactly. Literally, my next line is, yes, you heard that right. These super smart men took documents that were evidence of a crime and tossed it in the trash in an open conference room where they put the investigator to wait for the owner.
Oh my, they put him, it was their decision to put him in that room?
Yes.
Oh.
I know, it was so bad.
Stupid. It burns.
Right?
That's like, do you ever have those moments where somebody says or does something so stupid that all you can do is squint at them?
Yes. Yes.
I find, especially in like a work setting, like because you can't say anything and you can't give like a super poker face. So somebody does something stupid and all I can do is just squint at them.
Because you're trying to figure out if they're for real.
Yeah. It's just like, that's my like go-to reaction for when someone does something stupid. I just squint at them.
So
and sometimes I'm like, wow, my eyes are almost closed and I'm squinting so hard at what you did was so stupid. So I am like squinting very hard at them.
Yes, exactly. I can see the face. She is squinting very hard. So Ed thought that this was more than enough evidence to take it to the police to get an arrest, or at least an investigation open to put these scumbags in jail. However, the police just dismissed Ed and his evidence. They said it wasn't enough to look into and that the whole thing sounded off. They said it sounded like Mark was a drug dealer or something and he was trying to get rid of a rival dealer. This is when the homicide captain, Al Harper, came into the picture. He said that this case and the case of the disappearance of Frank and Christina had some similarities. The investigators in Frank and Christina's case went back to Ed to discuss the details of the other case and grabbed all of the information from him about the suspects. You know, the information he tried to give to them initially?
Mm-hmm.
It appeared that the leader of the pack was Danny Lugo. Daniel was a 32-year-old Puerto Rican Cuban bodybuilder from the Bronx. He was now the manager of Sun Gym in Miami, Florida, and hired by John Meese. When investigators looked into Daniel Lugo's record, it was discovered that he was a convicted felon. His crime? He defrauded poor, innocent, elderly people out of millions of their hard-earned dollars in an insurance scheme.
Oh,
like
wow.
the douchebag that he is.
Did he serve any jail time or anything?
He did, yeah. He was a convicted felon.
I mean, that doesn't mean he served jail time.
When you're convicted of it and you're a felon, you would have served time.
You can serve.
What?
Just
he went to jail for it. I don't have the details of that, but he did.
Okay. Some people are just in like parole like things, you know?
Oh yeah, like probation. Or whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. No, he did go to jail for that. The next person on the investigators list was Adrian Noel Doorbal.
Doorbell?
I want to say doorbell, but it's Doorbal. 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 I'm assuming, yeah, I don't know if you have an accent when you say that name or not, but I'm going to say doorball because I don't have an
Doorball. It's where you put the No, it's not the accent. It's your emphasis.
Emphasis. I don't know how you even... What do you
say
put the emphasis on emphasis?
You say emphasis. But didn't you ever see that movie with Mike Myers in it? And he says something, or somebody says something wrong, and then he looks, and he goes, I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah. Wasn't that Mike Myers? Sorry, not Mike Myers. That was Austin Powers. I'm pretty sure
it wasn't.
Was
it was the one, something to do with like flight attendants. And he was like the person training them, I think, or he was the pilot.
Oh.
I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. View from the Top.
Oh, yes. I did see that. Yes, okay. In Mike Myers'
so I say
prime.
That all the time. If I mess up my emphasis, I always say, I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
I love it so much. It's so good.
Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah. Watch that movie. If anyone hasn't watched that movie, actually, you know what? I don't know if that held up over time. Let me know.
You let us know, or maybe we should rewatch it and we'll let you know.
True.
I'd be interested. I loved Mike Myers when he was in his prime.
Same.
I still do,
I was
but
obsessed
he's
with
not
Austin Powers.
Yeah, same. Huge fan.
Yeah, I had the VHS and I would watch it over and over and over again.
I love that you had a VHS of Austin Powers.
Yeah, I did. I had like 12 or 15 maybe VHS movies, and I saved all my money for a really long time, and I bought myself a TV with a built-in VCR.
Hey.
Yeah, the thing was huge. I think my mom actually still has it at her house and uses it in her like spare room.
That's amazing.
And I would just watch. These were like my 15 favorite VHSs, and I would watch them. I can't go to sleep without watching something. I have to have something on the TV.
Yeah.
This has been like my entire life. So I would just watch a movie every single night, but I loved these ones so much that I would watch them over and over again. And I know Austin Powers was one of them, and Legally Blonde was one of them, and Rush Hour was one of them.
So good.
Oh, so good.
I love the movies of that era. They were all so good, I think.
Yeah. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh,
That was definitely one of them.
That movie.
Bring It On.
Yes.
So
I love it.
good.
Yeah, well,
yes.
it's cheer, but also, it applies to the dancer as well, I'm sure, in you.
Yeah, everything about it. Bring It On is
so
an amazing
good.
movie.
Yeah, I watched that many times.
A really
too.
good job.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, sorry.
All right,
I'm having
digress.
a day. I'm getting off track a lot.
It's okay.
You know what is funny is now that I'm saying I'm getting off track a lot, and I look slightly to my left, and the beer I'm drinking, it's one of my favorite beers, and the brewery is called Off Track Brewing.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Wow, that was very timely and convenient.
Yeah, as I looked over and I'm getting distracted. It's a really good beer. If people like stout, this beer I'm drinking is called the Illuminati, and it's a peanut butter stout.
That actually sounds yummy.
It's very good. It tastes like, well, I really love stout.
Would I like it?
You might like it because it's a very sweet tasting stout. Like this feels like dessert to me.
Ooh, yummy. Okay.
Yeah.
I would definitely try it for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's in Bedford, the brewery.
And if you want to drink it and be the person who gets people off track all the time, that obviously then that's the right beer for you.
Yeah. Peanut butter is my favorite food. And I realized that, my entire life I'm just always getting off track or
She's
people off track.
Cheering herself over
I
there.
just cheersed my own Grimdark cup with my off-track beer. Okay, so continue on with the story.
Okay, cool. Yes. Continuing on. So Adrian Noel Doorbal, he was a 28-year-old Trinidadian immigrant who was hired at Sun Gym to be a trainer. Another person of interest was a man who Adrian trained named George Delgado. George worked for Mark Schiller and was the person who gave the Sun Gym gang the idea to kidnap Mark for his money. George and Mark had started a mortgage business together, but sadly the business went in a bad direction. George and Mark had a falling out over a bad deal, and then George wanted to get revenge against Mark. So George went to Daniel and told him that Mark would be an extremely easy target. George said that Mark wouldn't go to the police because he was involved in a Medicare fraud. And so the plan was concocted there on the spot. Daniel proposed to Adrian Noel Doorbal, Carl Weeks, and Stevenson Pierre that they kidnap Mark, have him write his own ransom, and then kill him. And by write his own ransom, they basically mean like make him sign over all his assets to them. The investigators made another huge break when they went to speak with Frank's ex-girlfriend, Beatrice, with this new information. This time, she broke. She told the investigators that she had been dating Adrian Doorbal and was the one to introduce him to Frank Griga. Once the police went back to talk to Frank and Christina's neighbor, Judy, she confirmed that Daniel and Adrian were the two men that the young couple had gone to dinner with the night before their disappearance.
Oh, snap.
It's all coming together. The police were very quick to find George and Adrian. They searched Adrian's apartment, and inside was an abundance of evidence that they needed to connect the Mark Schiller kidnapping and the Frank and Christina kidnapping. Some of that evidence included bloodstains, Frank's business card, the red leather outfit that Judy described Christina wearing the night she had disappeared as well. Investigators were able to get the real story out of Adrian Doorbal after interrogating him for a while. He said that he had lured Frank and Christina out to dinner to talk about a fake business deal that they wanted to do, and went to a restaurant that they knew would be closed, but was also close to Adrian's townhouse apartment, so that when they got to the closed restaurant, Adrian just asked them to come up to his apartment to talk about the deal. After they arrived at the apartment, Adrian attacked Frank and tried to subdue him, but Frank fought back, much to Adrian's chagrin. So Adrian upped his game and ended up choking Frank, which they also say in some reports that Adrian was addicted to steroids and he was very, very, very buff. So they think what happened was he didn't know his own strength and ended up choking Frank and then hitting him in the head, which ultimately killed him.
Oh, wow.
Christina tried to stop Adrian from hurting Frank, but when she got in the mix, Daniel grabbed her, beat her, and then gave her an injection of horse tranquilizer.
Oh, goodness.
The men realized their mistake. They have killed Frank, and now they have no way to extort him for his assets. They tried to get the information out of Christina, but she was way too out of it. Soon, she would also pass away. What they didn't realize was that Daniel had given her enough tranquilizer to have killed 4 1,000-pound horses.
Oh my goodness.
How do you not know you have that much tranquilizer?
Yeah, these people are clearly not very bright.
Not at all, no. They thought they were, but they were not. After they had a moment to think about their failed attempt at extortion, Daniel Lugo contacted someone he knew from the gym that would help him clean up their mess. His name was John Raimondo, and he was a Florida Department of Corrections officer.
Oh no, a crooked officer.
Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach. I hate that. John advised that they cut up the bodies of Frank and Christina and dispose of them that way. But first, they had to get them out of Adrian's apartment. So they stuffed their bodies into cardboard boxes and packed them in their vehicle like they were moving into a new house and took them to the warehouse to get to work.
Oh, gross.
I know, it just makes me gross.
That's
this
so
whole thing.
Disrespectful.
Right? Completely. Their first method for chopping them up, yes, their first method was a chainsaw.
Oh, Lord.
But this chainsaw didn't have enough power, apparently. So unbelievably, these two men would, wait for it, bring the chainsaw back to Home Depot to return it
No.
Yes. How stupid. Anyway, yeah, they totally did that. So then they decided to purchase an electric chainsaw.
Wait now. So if that got returned, that means it probably got put back on a shelf.
Yes, more than likely it did. Yes, I would assume so.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they tracked it down. I didn't read that anywhere in any of these articles I read, but
They must be hard up for money.
Oh, yeah.
If they need to return the chainsaw that they tried to hack a body up with to get the money back, then
extorting people for millions of dollars. Like in the case of Mark Schiller, I didn't put this in the story because it was just kind of like flair, but basically when they had him kidnapped for that month, they had all his money after they extorted him extorted his assets from him. They had all his money and then they lived in his house and they partied at his house for however long it was until they spent all of his money. Like they spent all his money on drugs and booze and girls and whatever they could. Oh my
goodness.
They just threw the money away. So this is why they did what they did. So next they decided to purchase an electric chainsaw. This one they had to stop using because it kept getting tangled in Christina's beautiful thick hair.
Oh God.
So awful. It's so awful. I'm not sure why they couldn't put her hair up, but anyway,
it's very easy to move.
Obviously hair. Not very brave.
These guys are meatheads.
Right. That's actually one of the nicknames that they get. Yep, it's meatheads. So finally they got hatchets to finish cutting up the bodies, which took them hours to do. And then they dumped those parts into a 50-gallon drum. Into two of them, I believe, 50-gallon drums, and then took them out to the Everglades and threw them into it. John Raimondo then disposed of their car in the same location.
That's not smart. Don't put the car where you put the bodies.
Right. They knew exactly where to look for the bodies after they found the car. Come on.
Stupid.
What is this? Grimdark Murder 101?
Yeah, I had a course in that.
Yeah. We're going to have a full-size book after the first 20, 30 episodes of this podcast. The bodies of Frank and Christina were eventually found in a canal, chopped into pieces. Authorities were only able to identify Christina because of a breast implant's serial number, and Frank because of a tooth.
Oh, wow.
That's how horribly mangled they were. Daniel Lugo went into hiding. There is only one thing that he had against him, and that was his girlfriend, Sabina Petrescu. Sabina. Yeah, I love that name.
I like that name.
Beautiful.
It makes me think of Sabine, which is a Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes,
yeah,
it does.
Sabine Wren.
I have a friend who has a friend named Sabina, and they used to talk about her all the time, so that's who it made me think of.
Really? Oh,
but
I like
Sabine for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching through Star Wars Rebels right now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, have you watched it?
I haven't seen any of those, and I haven't seen Clone Wars yet either. I know.
Oh, Megan.
I know you even sent me the list too of the order that I should watch them in because they're not.
Clone Wars.
Yeah, which I didn't know because they're
Clone
not
Wars
in chronological order.
Yeah, they're not in the right order. So you got to watch the watch order, and then after you finish Clone Wars, you have to watch Rebels. And I haven't finished Rebels yet. I know I'm late to the game, but I'm catching up now. And
you'll never be later than me.
All right. Yeah. Well, I didn't have access to them before. As we established in previous episodes, I don't know how to use the internet very well. So I now have Disney Plus, so now I can catch up.
And you can tell your Google Home to play it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Limited ability of knowing how to use
I'm becoming one with technology.
That's right.
But I will say, the first season of Star Wars Rebels, I didn't love. I didn't hate, but I was like, I wish this was just more Clone Wars. And then season 2 gets better, and then like there's the season finale is a 2-parter in season 2, and oh my god, it's so good. I could actually scream.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm on season 3. I'm almost on season 3, and it's so freaking good. And then they just came out with the Bad Batch, and the Bad Batch is so freaking good. I cannot even. If you are a Star Wars fan, it is so good. Well, especially if you watch Clone Wars, because they're characters from the Clone Wars.
Should you watch Clone Wars and Rebels before you watch the Bad Batch?
I would recommend watching Clone Wars at least first.
At least, okay.
Well,
I personally will watch all of them, but I was just curious in case
it would make more sense to you. So the Clone Wars is during the Clone Wars. So it's
Is it?
it is.
Okay, I didn't
And
actually
then
know that, but I figured.
the Bad Batch starts right when Order 66 happens.
Okay.
So the Clone Wars TV show, the animated show, pretty much ends right around, it ends at like Order 66.
Okay.
So that's kind of the last couple episodes.
Right.
And then the Bad Batch also picks up right there.
Okay.
So the Bad Batch pretty much picks up where Clone Wars ends off.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, I definitely plan to get them under my belt at some point. I just don't know when that's going to be.
They're so good. Watching the Bad Batch after being such a freaking huge Star Wars nerd, and then watching Clone Wars, like binging it recently in the last couple months.
Yeah.
Watching Bad Batch gave me goosebumps. Like,
oh, really?
The kind where like I almost cried because I was just like, I don't know. I can't even explain it. Because awful things are happening in the show, but I'm just so in love with the world.
Yeah.
That to be like Clone Wars is over and I'm like, damn, like I just wish I had more stories from like this era.
Yeah.
And then I get this again and it's awful things that are happening. Order 66 is obviously a very awful thing.
Right?
If people don't know what we're saying, that's the order to kill all of the Jedis. And so it's an awful thing, but to be
Very
back in
much
that
so.
story again, I just could cry because that world is so good. And Dave Filoni is just a freaking genius.
He's a magician for sure. Yeah.
He is the future of Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, this rant was brought to you by Off Track Beer, currently that I'm drinking.
Please sponsor us.
The bottle's almost done, so you can tell I'm getting even more off track.
That's right.
Continue.
That's right.
I don't remember why we were talking about Star Wars.
It was because I was talking about Sabina, his girlfriend. Yes,
Yes.
Daniel Lugo's girlfriend, Sabina Petrescu. She was a one-time penthouse model turned exotic dancer, as I feel like all of these women were in this story. She had fallen for Daniel and believed everything he told her. So when the police came to her doorstep looking for him, she said he wasn't a criminal. Daniel convinced her that he was a spy on a secret mission, so she wouldn't give him up, but eventually she would crack. She told the investigators that he was hiding out in the Bahamas. It didn't take much for her to crack. In June 1995, 11 people in total were then arrested and charged in connection with this plot.
Oh, wow.
In all, only 7 members of the gang would do time. So Daniel Lugo, I kind of go into this a little bit more in depth after I read them out, but I will just read out who they were first. So Daniel Lugo, who was convicted and sentenced to death, and he had 2 death sentences.
Oh, wow.
Adrian Noel Doorbal, convicted and sentenced to death as well. Also 2 death sentences because they were the 2 to actually kill the 2. Frank and Frank and Christina.
What did you just say?
His last name, but I meant to say her name instead. I'm also having a week.
I panicked for a minute. I was like, oh my God, I thought her name was Christina this whole time.
Christina, it totally was. John Carl Meese, he was convicted and sentenced to 56 years and died in prison. George Delgado pled guilty and sentenced to 13 years in prison, and he was released on November 27th, 2002.
He definitely took a plea deal if he pleaded guilty.
Yeah, exactly. And Carl Weeks was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison and was released on May 15th, 2002. Stevenson Pierre, convicted, sentenced to 7 years in prison, released May 24th, 2001. And John Raimondo pled guilty to kidnapping and sentenced to 8 years in prison and was released February 27th, 2002. So finally, this is kind of a little bit after the fact, but finally in February 1998, almost 3 years after the kidnapping and the murders took place, Daniel and Adrian went on trial. This was obviously before their convictions, but I kind of wanted to get out all the names of who actually went to jail. Daniel Lugo's girlfriend, Sabina Petrescu, was granted immunity for her testimony. She knew all their secrets and details of their plots. However, she thought that they were undercover CIA agents and that Daniel was her CIA agent.
So she's not very bright.
Not very bright at all, no. And if you're a CIA agent, you're not telling your girlfriend that that's what you do.
No.
Just saying.
Honey.
No. Just saying, if anyone out there right now and your significant other or partner is telling you that they are a CIA agent, I guarantee you they are not. So the trial included over 100 witnesses, thousands of pieces of evidence, and so it lasted for 10 weeks. Jurors wasted absolutely no time whatsoever in this case and reached their verdict only within a couple of hours. Daniel Lugo was found guilty of first-degree murder in the deaths of Christina Furton and Frank Griga. Adrian Doorbal was also found guilty of first-degree murder, and both men were sentenced to death. John Meese was sentenced to 56 years in prison, and he died in 2004 of a stroke while he was still there. John Raimondo was sentenced to 8 years. After the trial was over, as Mark Schiller made his way out of the courtroom, he was surrounded by armed FBI agents. They arrested him for his very extensive Medicare scam.
Oh, snap.
During Mark Schiller's trial, even the judge from the Sun Jin gang's trial, Judge Alex Ferrer, stood up for Mark, saying how important Mark's testimony was in bringing that gang down. He said, quote, "He was treated like a prisoner of war, or actually worse. The torture and the beatings and the attempts to kill him and all of that. For some reason, it just felt to me that should be taken into consideration." End quote.
Wow.
In a plea deal, Mark Schiller only spent 2 years in federal prison and was required to pay $137,000 in restitution. 18 years later, in 2013, the story was too much for Hollywood to resist. In the movie Pain and Gain, Lugo was portrayed by Mark Wahlberg. In 2016, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Florida's death penalty sentencing system was unconstitutional. Later on, the state justices ruled that many inmates slated for execution should get new sentencing hearings because juries did not vote unanimously for execution. Included in this would be Adrian Noel Doorbal. Jurors only voted 8-4 for the death penalty for him. So in September 2017, it was decided that Adrian Doorbal, now 45 years old, would get a new sentencing hearing. And that is the last of the updates. There is nothing more. So They are still alive. They are still in jail on death row. They are still, they suspect that Daniel Lugo will also get a new sentencing hearing as well. But there is no more updates that I could find about that. So as far as we know, those two murderers are still in jail, still on death row, and potentially waiting for new sentencing hearings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, The Rock was in that movie.
Yes, he was. That was a great movie. I really enjoyed that one. I didn't know it was actually based on a true story. And there isn't a lot out there about this story. I hadn't even heard of it before. And when I looked it up, there's a lot of articles on it, but there's not a whole lot of people who talked about it. Like there weren't any other podcasts. There was a couple, but not really any big ones. And yeah, I was really shocked how this was not talked about more. But that's probably because it was a movie. Who knows?
Yeah. I heard that somebody from the case is suing the movie.
Oh, really?
Based on their portrayal.
Yeah, that was Mark Schiller.
They were trying to portray
that was Mark Schiller, because in the movie, Mark Schiller is portrayed as the bad guy for being a shady businessman. But when in actuality, he was a victim of he was the one who was kidnapped for 1 month and tortured and beaten and starved almost to death over and over again for a whole month. So this is just like a very brief synopsis of what he went through. Like, I'm sure there's way more than that. And
if it's a whole month,
right. And he wrote a book, so you could find the book. And I think it's actually called Pain and Gain. And
that's the name of the movie.
The movie is called, then it's called No Pain, No Gain. It's one of the two. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, the movie is Pain and Gain. 2013. Directed by Michael Bay.
Yep. So his book is called Pain and Gain: The Untold True Story by Mark Schiller.
That's a little shade at the movie there.
Yeah. Published in 2013. So
so the same year as the movie. It was
published January 25th, 2013. So I'm guessing the book was written first because the movie didn't come out until 2013.
April 26th, 2013 is the movie.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's interesting they came out around the same time, because all this happened in 1995. So it's weird that maybe...
Well, maybe when he heard they were making a movie, he was like, oh, snap, I gotta get my story
exactly
out
what
first.
I was just gonna say. Yeah, he probably did hear that and he wanted to get his story out there first. I believe it. So yeah, it's called Pain and Gain, the Untold True Story by Mark Schiller. So if you wanted to read more about that, then I highly recommend getting it to see what he has to say. And he is very much, I mean, he did have a very shady business, so I'm sure.
Yeah, he did. I don't think I mean, what happened to him was awful, but
right.
I don't think he's a great guy if you had a Medicare scam going.
Exactly. You're scamming people out of their insurance for their health and their safety. So screw you, buddy.
Don't like
not
that.
At all. Not at all. So yeah, that is the story of Frank Griga, Christina Furton, and Mark Schiller, Daniel Lugo, and Adrian Doorbal.
No pain, no gain.
There you have it.
Snap. Well, that was a wonderful story, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is time for me to roll for next week.
Woohoo!
Oh, I got a 2.
Wow, we are doing awesome. I rolled a 3 last week. You rolled a 2. It looks like we're going back down.
Oh my goodness.
My only good roll was the one that I did on the book and you couldn't hear it.
No. So I rolled a 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the category I have is teenagers are vicious.
Oh boy. Teenagers, that's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And I will agree, teenagers are absolutely vicious.
It's true. Even the ones that are totally normal in everyday households.
Yeah, absolutely. They got attitude problems.
I'm sure we all were like that at one point or another.
Yeah. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at The Grimdark Diaries. We're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. We also have a Twitter, which is just Grimdark Diaries. You can hit us up with an email if you have any feedback or questions or just want to talk to us because we like having friends.
Tell us your stories.
Yes, please. We are The Grimdark Diaries at gmail.com. We would love it if you could subscribe or follow us on whatever you listen to. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please give us a comment and a 5-star rating. And if you didn't like us enough to give us a 5-star rating, just send us an email and be like, hey, I think you can work on these things. And we'll be like, maybe. And then it'll just all be fine.
That's right.
Yeah. So make sure you tune in next week to see what I come up with for Teenagers Are Vicious. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.